Do
and
you
I
feel
still use
like
this.
do you feel like there are specific affordances for you using Unreal versus like other video game? You mentioned it's like an instrument for you. You know, if you're someone who plays guitar, they'll tell you that there's a difference between a, you know, Les Paul versus like a Stratocaster. Like, you know, they have very specific ways of talking about the fret action and the weight and the feel and the tone. And
Yeah.
do you feel that way about like game engines as it relates to your work?
I think, I mean, I could probably have used, ended up really focusing on another engine, might as well, but I think there's something that Epic Games that was a little slightly unusual. Like Source did this too. So Source is the video game engine behind the video game Half-Life. And any game that Epic has published, even before that, came with a version of the technology used to make the game. So every time they, it's like they also make Fortnite now, and revenue from Fortnite is why they can expand on the capabilities of Unreal. If you don't have Fortnite, you do not have Unreal. Trust me, this is like these
Yeah,
two
yeah,
things go hand in hand. They need, but they've done that for like 40 years or something.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
it was a little happenstance, but around the same time, there was also like the Quake engine, but it's kind of difficult to use. The Unreal just came with a very like you know, change these little things in the map in the title, and then you go from like a multiplayer to a single player or from deathmatch, whatever. It's very immediate for whatever reason, and also like working with textures and materials was very easy. Unreal Engine also came with, it's barely then the new one, something called a brush editor, so you could like block out a level directly in the video game software. So for if you're like a solo developer and you're just playing around, it's very helpful to have a tool where you're inside the software of the experience, building the experience. So there's less friction.
Hmm.
The other thing is that, you know, at the time of now it's like Unreal Engine 5, but when Unreal Engine 4 came around, it was after 3 and they made it open so anybody can use it. And like I was also using CryEngine a little bit, but
Okay.
CryEngine, this German company, legally, I don't know what it is now, but when I was really starting to seriously like, okay, now I'm going to start doing pretty big art projects, um, Source Engine in its contract does not allow you to make anything but games. And I didn't really want to just make games. I mean, I freelanced on
Right.
game projects. I made mods. I mean, I started making like modifications, you know, of Unreal and then building worlds with it, and I've done that since then in different
Hmm.
engines, but just kind of stayed with that. So there's some things very technical on IP and creativity and technology.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
there's also
I,
Unity, but that's the last thing that's really cool about Unreal is that because it comes from Epic, they made this game called Gears of War. Some, I mean, this very like generic blockbuster title, whatever. But it's just like, so every time they launched the title, they would just essentially they would just provide creators with like tools that takes millions of dollars to create, and they just give them to you. And so you could just kind of like pull off that a bit. And so they made this game Gears of War. And what it did is that it allows you to have a really complex 3D world, have a timeline and a sequence where you can control loads of different parameters at the same time. And you can kind of like visualize the whole transformation of the three-dimensional world as you're in it. And that kind of clicked with me because I was like, oh, I can have someone work on music over there. I can start working on like animation over here. And you can have all these elements and you can work on them synchronously, which adds to this instrumental music band way of working that is how I create work now. I work
yeah,
very kind of orchestral in a way. I mean, that's how I think about it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it does. Like it is this transformational technology. I think in terms of enabling small teams to do things with, and that wasn't always the case. It used to require, you know, as you know, with like with game engines, you needed a lot more people, and they were often proprietary,
Yeah.
and you needed big teams to actually work with them. And it's been interesting to kind of see we're kind of back to this moment where artists can actually put together something really profound and uniquely expressive with the exact same thing that is used to basically ship these like enormous game that ship these enormous games as well. So I do think we're at a really interesting, really interesting inflection moment as it relates to like video games and the creative process.